So keeping it as succinct as possible, there were 3 milestones, I think, in my journey that led me to Lucenia. It wasn't a overnight epiphany type, hey, let's create this. A little bit about my background. My background is primarily geospatial, and I have a very large interest, I should say, primary interest in the fact that everything has a location. Everything technology should support real life, and real life exists in a world and in a universe. And so that's what got me into geospatial to begin with. Now, interestingly enough, all geospatial problems are a multidimensional problem, a very complex engineering problem when it gets down to data. They're not just it's not just money, it's not just a time, it's money, time, location, feature, blah blah blah, right? And so that was my journey starting from the get-go of my career, was dealing with very high dimensionality problem sets and being frustrated with the fact that there's very little software applications and software solutions to help that environment. Everything's custom. And so that's what got me into the search problem and the search space to begin with. What led me to create Lucenia was the fact that every employer or company that I went into just didn't have. I want to be careful about this. That's not their primary focus, right? It was geo is a second class citizen, or multidimensional is a second class citizen. It just so happens AI has projected that into being a first class citizen, and a lot of companies, big companies, are having a very difficult time adapting. Startups have a lot more freedom to adapt quickly on the technology, but going to market is the hard part. So I started Lucenia to solve the engineering problem first, and then said, hey, well, I'd much rather solve a go-to-market problem, have that be the bigger barrier than the actual engineering. So that's why Lucenia exists, is to be unfettered in legacy technology and contribute now to a world that has a broader need. Solving the retrieval problem of your data for I'm not going to say just AI. So being able to find, we solve the find problem. We usually start some form of AI, or any problem in technology starts with a question, and then you need supporting data. The step to bridge the gap from getting supporting data to answer your question is a retrieval and search problem. So we are solving the retrieval problem for AI, for use cases, business B2B use cases. So today it's not solved in the regard of you have a solution to be able to find something. You have to cobble together many solutions to find the right thing. And so today's solutions are focused on very specific verticals. If I have a log use case, I need to go find a log platform. If I have a health use case, I go find a health platform. Ultimately, retrieval is data agnostic, and so there's not really that one-stop solution to be able to find all of your data in a single platform. It's a very expensive, costly process of getting consultants, engineers, and patching together many different solutions. And that's the ultimate problem our company is looking to solve, is to give you that one-stop solution. The technical answer is to be able to decouple the data ingestion from the data storage from the actual customer's tooling, right? And then to be able to provide very easy connectors between these. Now, some people would say, well, that's what MCP is about, right? And well, they're not terribly wrong. I mean, I would argue that that's not the solution. That's part of the solution. And so the fact that MCP exists means that the world recognizes that this is a problem and we need a solution to be able to tie them together. And so that's the technical answer. The non-technical answer is to provide users that don't have the means to pull together many consultants a single stop platform service online that gives them a very intuitive way to spin up your storage, spin up your connectors, and then find your data. And so that's That's literally the kind of the non-technical is I just need a place to go and have it done for me. It'd be a lie if I said that we don't have competitors. And so, of course, there's a number of companies out there that are messaging the same kind of thing. The differentiation for us is that we don't have the legacy bloat of 2000s and 2010s cloud native solution for this. The world has shifted from cloud native only into a hybrid form of using their own systems and using cloud. And that's really where our differentiation is that there's other folks trying to solve this, but they're stuck still in a cloud only or an on-prem only or an open source only. For us, we're really kind of bridging the gap between cloud and self-hosted, so people can own their own IP. Each one of those C levels are going to care for a different reason. So I would say that CIOs are going to care because our product, the differentiation by being able to allow you to run this in your own environment means you don't leak your intellectual property, your data, like you do now if you just connect a API key to Anthropic. And so CIOs care because they get to control where their data lives. CFOs care because I'm not patching together many systems where each one of them carries a maybe not high cost, but moderate enough cost to where the sum total is expensive. So it's reducing their reducing their cost problem. And then CSOs are similar to CIOs, and that this is more secure because once I can control it, I can encrypt it, I can lock it down much tighter than I could if I hand it off to a cloud. And then, chief data officers and chief AI officers, which there's now, I don't know if you see on Facebook these days, there's a lot of colleges that are pushing AI degrees now. Chief AI officer, I think, is one recently that I saw. They're going to care because now I don't have to go team up with 15 individuals. I can bring in a single partner to help me solve this and solve it from a one-stop shop, and then only bring in if it's absolutely necessary. I think the easiest way to say that would be the outcome is their ability to operationalize AI in their enterprise within their company. That would be sort of the blanket outcome, I think. Now there's nuances between different companies. Some companies are more progressive than others, and they've already started to adopt AI, and they're feeling the pain points. Others have just said no, and said we are not going to operationalize. It's just, where do you sit in that spectrum? Have you already lost control? If you have, we can solve that problem. We can pull control back within your trust boundary. If you've just said no, then we have an opportunity to give you that first step to say yes, but within a controlled environment. How can I absolutely see that it never leaves my environment? We track all of it internally. They can see it through their dashboards. They can see it on their VPCs and their service accounts. There's already ways technically, there's already ways through cloud dashboards and all that to see your egress. And when you run Lucenia, you'll see zero egress. That's one no-brainer, easy way to see that if I have no egress, then I have no data leaving my service account or my trust boundary. If you're running on your own self-hosted system, then unplug it from the larger WAN and you still run standalone. And so if you were connected and things were leaving your trust boundary and going to an Anthropic model, you wouldn't be able to disconnect from a public internet. Whereas with Lucenia, you can, and you never have an outage. So there's the build versus buy. The obvious one would be, options would be go download open source projects and build a platform. The more interesting question, I think, would be what solutions exist out there. The answer you're going to get back are companies that have been around for 15, 20 years. And so so it's just, you gotta, what is it? Trust but verify, I guess. For us, this is where, our company is interesting as a B2B infra company. The things that you can do now that you couldn't do before are going to largely fall into the category of efficiencies, infrastructure efficiencies, doing more with less. We aren't in a necessary, like I can rattle off a couple features here and there, and a lot of them fall into geospatial. They fall into smaller vectors. I'm now able to do some things I might have been able to cobble together before, but I'm able to do them with a much smaller data footprint. And so I think what the real value here that we're providing is you've now unlocked compute to do other things. You couldn't do that before. You had to go buy millions of dollars of infrastructure and then buy more millions of dollars of infrastructure to do other parts of your business. For us, take $1 million of infrastructure and we'll do it on 10%, giving you the ability to now use the next 90% for other business functions. You couldn't do that before. And so that's maybe a hard thing to swallow or understand, because most of the time when you say what can I do now that I couldn't do before, it falls into the category of, oh, I can create three-dimensional maps, right? Something really tangible like that, right? I could rattle off a list of some of those. We can do agentic mapping, because geospatial is a core competency of ours. So if you're in the geospatial vertical, right, which falls into a lot of other markets like, pandemic health and health and wellness and agriculture, all these are geo products, and defense, we're able to do agentic AI on geospatial that you couldn't do before. But I would say that that's just one vertical. The bigger value here is I'm able to do a lot more of my business than I was able to do before with less infrastructure. That would be the one liner that I would say is our biggest value. Couple, I would say, if I were to give you some bullet points on that one, we've already gotten feedback. Actually, this is fairly hot off the press right now. One customer that was using an alternative solution came back and gave us a single line quote that said, holy crap, well, I was just able to do in about 2 lines with Lucenia that took me an entire script to do with previous solution. So if you're a data integrator, and we're working with quite a few of those now that are starting to prototype and pilot us as an OEM or an integration within their bigger platform, those are the kinds of things that I think that our customers will hear more of. The more that we go to market with this, is it's easier to integrate. It's more intuitive API than having to go tie to a API and vibe code everything. It's pretty easy to do without needing to vibe code, even though you can vibe code with it. So I think ease of integration is one bullet point. Ease of maintenance is another one. Once there's a problem, we surface the problem a lot faster than other solutions that you have to dive into hundreds of lines of log files. So we were very conscious about the user experience when it comes to actually, if you're chief data officer, I think that's the biggest value that we're going to provide that you get from Lucenia that you don't get from others, is just that ease of integration and ease of self-maintenance. The future of information retrieval, I think, has always been destined to go. So I think that's probably a question that's worth asking and discussing, even though I think it teeters on the philosophical more so than the technical. I think that covers all of them. Other questions that I've gotten are, what kind of category do I see Lucenia creating of the future? And it dovetails with that one, is that I think a sovereign AI data platform would be the category. Sovereign being your privacy. The sovereign word is thrown around a lot because a lot of people don't really know, like, it sounds smart. Some people don't really know what it means. Like for me, I think I just simply replace the word sovereign with privacy and controlled, a controlled AI platform, a private AI platform that you own, and not just another SaaS. So categorize this as the people who ask them, right? So you mentioned a couple. What are the kind of questions that investors ask? Well, the kind of common questions investors ask are similar ones that you ask. Is how are you different from other ones saying the same thing? And where do you see the market? And how is Lucenia poised to take over that part of the market? And so a lot of these questions fall into that category of common questions of investors, and even top level buyers. Maybe less so top level buyers. Mostly investors ask those kinds of questions. Buyers ask questions like, how easy is it for me to onboard and give it a try, right? Like where does Lucenia fall in my organization, and why do I care, right? And so usually that question comes 2 or 3 down the pipe. after we find out what the company's doing, right? So cold outbound will say, hey, they will be obvious and clear. I am a geospatial mapping company, or I am a satellite or an image collection company, and I'm trying to use search for this. So the common questions that I get in those environments are coming from people who are already using and recognizing that search is part of the bigger picture. Those common questions are in terms of usability. How easy is it for my engineers to spin you up? And then what's the footprint, right? Like, what is the data footprint? What is the cloud footprint? Common question would be, can I run you on my bare metal, but also use you in my cloud seamlessly, right? Those are common questions. How much object storage do I need, and what's going to be the bottom line impact if I do run this in my own service account? So it falls into the category of ease of use, of integration, and then price, and then also what's your support, your SLA, and how fast are you in this. So those are common questions on the companies that already know how to use us. If we are at a conference and we're cold outbounding, never, talking to somebody that doesn't really know us, then it really kind of depends on the venue that we're in. When we go to defense, the question is always almost something around security and compliance. Can I run you on a gov cloud? Can I run you on a secure system? And ensure that the data is encrypted, blah, 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 right? It's usually a security set of questions. So I guess that's how I would categorize it. Investors are, how are you different in the market? Companies are in terms of how are you easy to adopt and what's your price point? And then, cold outbound and, defense verticals and conferences are basically within the context of whatever we're talking about. Are you secure? Are you compliant? I get a lot of CIO questions and those kinds of. So spinning up Lucenia on a developer box is one line. It takes about 30 seconds to run get everything running in your background. Like, it gets everything corrected. You don't have to have any system requirements beyond about an 8 GB memory on a laptop, and you can run us, right? In a production-like environment, which is probably the more interesting, you're a scalable production one. It's a matter of a single script that we can deploy inside of all your big hyperscalers or on-prem. Only thing we require is a Kubernetes or a K3s, or we run on a Kubernetes control plane. And so once you do that, we have a single script that onboards it, and then it will auto scale for you. Now, there's a nuance inside that question. How easy is it? That's how easy it is to get running. Then the second question is, now that I'm running, how easy is it to scale when I start really hammering it with data? And that's where it ties into our value prop, is we auto scale up, which a lot of them will do, but we also auto scale down. And so until recently, I don't think anybody could truly claim that they could scale down gracefully to handle those high surge environments. And even still, the scale down portion is you have to go buy a cloud service to get that running. You can't do that on your own hardware, which with us you can. So I'd say that's how easy it is. It's a script in both those environments, and then we automate everything inside of your environment to scale up and scale down. Now, if you in your own environment disconnected and you hit, a warning, a set of log file failures, we surface them quickly in terms of notifications. But sometimes you got to have expert knowledge of, not expert, but you have to have some kind of knowledge of how a retrieval system works. That's usually where we come in. That's where the paid contracts come in. You can sign up for us on a simple business level SLA or an enterprise SLA if you want to go big and have 24/7 management and have us manage your clusters for you. We can do that without touching your data. % less than anything else out there. So when I say anything else out there, I mean quite literally your Snowflakes, your Weaviates, your Milvus, your Elastic, your OpenSearch. Usually if you compare it to some vector database or some end-to-end full solution, which would be like a Datadog or a Databricks or something like that. And I'm violating what my own rule. I usually don't like to say other companies' names, but it is important to know that not every company is in the same category. There's there's categories of company that are solely, I'm a vector database and that's it. I'm a search, just the search piece. Then there's other companies that are platform pieces, right? That will say to you that I give you the full end to end. On par with all of those, we're about 40% less in terms of data footprint on the average. In some use cases, we're greater than that. Geo use cases, we're far greater than that. We're 60, 70, 80% because of we optimize those geospatial use cases just based on our core competency. So, but yeah, I would say average is a 40% less footprint. So.